Lady Sarathia Valora Prime was known across the star systems as a powerful woman. She was elegant, wealthy, and the head of one of the oldest business dynasties in the galaxy. Her ships traded rare crystals, precious metals, and medicines to dozens of alien worlds. To outsiders, she seemed like someone who had everything, a life filled with glory, wealth, and influence. But behind the tall walls of her shining palace, Sarathia carried a wound that no treasure could heal. Her daughter, Leora, once full of light and laughter, had lost the ability to walk. Years ago, when she was still young, a shuttle accident left her spine damaged. Despite every effort, no cure had worked. Valoran doctors tried advanced surgery, energy realignments, and expensive healing machines, but nothing brought movement back to her legs. Day by day, Leora was left sitting in her chair, staring out at the glowing gardens she once ran through as a child. For Valorans, who prized physical perfection and grace, the situation was cruel. Whispers followed Sarathia wherever she went. At gatherings, the other elites lowered their voices and pitied her. Some even dared to say that no amount of money could protect her family from weakness. Sarathia never showed her anger, but the words burned inside her heart. More than wealth, more than respect, she wanted only one thing: to see her daughter stand again. Leora herself had grown quiet. Once curious and adventurous, she now spent hours alone in her chamber, sketching stars she had never visited. She hated being a burden to her mother. She hated seeing the sadness in Sarathia's eyes, hidden behind her proud smile, and yet she pretended to be strong, so her mother would not break. It was during these years of sorrow that humanity entered the story. Humans had only recently joined the greater galactic community. To many alien races, they were considered strange newcomers, resilient but primitive. They came from a planet classified as a death world, a place full of danger, storms, and creatures that tested survival every day. Other species often laughed at humans, calling them reckless, stubborn, and unpredictable. But even those who laughed admitted that humans were difficult to ignore. When a human delegation arrived on Valora Prime for trade talks, Sarathia paid little attention at first. To her, they were just another group of merchants trying to win favor. Yet one of them stood out. His name was Dr. Marcus Hale, a medical researcher. Unlike the polished aliens who carried themselves with pride and ceremony, Marcus carried himself with quiet calm. He smiled easily, spoke simply, and did not try to impress anyone. Most aliens dismissed him. But fate had different plans. One afternoon, Leora overheard a conversation while sitting in the garden. Two human assistants were speaking near the fountain, unaware that she was listening. "They say Dr. Hale brought his neural repair tech," one whispered. "Valoran medics laughed at it, but it works back on Earth. He healed a soldier's spine after a crash last year," said the other. Leora's heart raced. Could it be true? She moved her chair closer and asked them directly. "Did you say repair a spine?" The assistants were startled, but one of them nodded carefully. "Yes, Lady Leora, humans have different ways. Dr. Hale developed nanocytes, tiny machines that help nerves grow again. But Valoran officials do not allow tests here. They think it is too dangerous." For the first time in many years, Leora felt a spark of hope. She requested to meet Dr. Hale in secret. When he entered her chamber, he bowed politely but without the usual exaggerated respect that alien healers often used. He treated her not like a fragile creature but like a person. "I heard about your work," Leora said softly. "Can you help me?" Dr. Hale studied her with kind eyes. "On Earth, we do not give promises we cannot keep. But I can tell you this, we have helped others with injuries like yours. Humans had to learn because our world breaks us often. We found ways to mend what others said was impossible." His words carried a warmth Leora had never heard before. Valoran healers always spoke with cold facts, numbers, and probabilities. But Hale spoke with experience, with belief born from struggle. Still, doubt lingered. "Why would your people care about helping me?" she asked. "Because you deserve the chance," Hale replied simply. "It does not matter if you are Valoran or human. What matters is that you want to live fully again. And if you choose to trust me, I will try." That night, when Sarathia visited her daughter, she found Leora brighter than she had been in years. She asked what had happened, and Leora finally confessed about the human doctor. At first, Sarathia's pride resisted. How could humans succeed when her own people had failed? But then she looked into her daughter's hopeful eyes. For the first time in years, there was a flame there. Sarathia did not answer immediately. She returned to her chamber, standing before the tall glass window that overlooked the glittering city. In her reflection, she saw not the powerful businesswoman but a mother desperate to give her child a chance. The galaxy could laugh, her peers could whisper, but what did any of it matter if her daughter never stood again? The decision weighed heavily, but in her heart she knew the truth. She would risk everything. If the humans truly held an answer, she would open the gates of her palace to them, no matter the cost. And so, a quiet agreement was formed. The next morning, Dr. Hale was allowed to visit again, not as a guest of trade, but as a healer. Leora, nervous but excited, welcomed him with trembling hands. The path ahead would not be easy, but for the first time, the impossible no longer felt unreachable. In the stillness of her heart, Lady Sarathia whispered a vow. If there is even a single chance for my daughter, I will take it, even if I must stand against the galaxy itself. And thus began a journey that would change not only one family, but the way the galaxy saw humanity forever. The sun of Valora Prime rose high, painting the city's silver towers in golden light. Inside the palace, however, Lady Sarathia felt no peace. She had allowed Dr. Marcus Hale to begin his work with Leora. It was a bold step, one that could either restore her daughter's life or invite ruin upon her family's name. The treatment began in Leora's private chamber, away from the curious eyes of Valoran officials. Hale and his small human team set up their equipment, sleek cases filled with delicate vials, scanners, and medpads. The centerpiece was a container holding neural regenerative nanocytes, microscopic machines designed to repair damaged nerves. These are the heart of the therapy, Hale explained calmly. They are programmed to rebuild damaged pathways. They are not perfect, but they are living proof of human persistence. Sarathia listened silently, her expression guarded. Trusting humans over Valoran medicine went against everything her society believed. But when she looked at her daughter, sitting upright with new determination in her eyes, she forced herself to believe as well. The first session began. Hale injected a measured dose of nanocytes into Leora's spine, then connected her to a monitor. The screen displayed glowing lines, nerve pathways slowly attempting to reconnect. There will be discomfort, Hale warned. Pain even. Your body will resist at first. But that is part of healing. Leora gritted her teeth, prepared. When the process began, she gasped as warmth spread through her body. Her legs tingled, an unfamiliar sensation after years of silence. Tears welled in her eyes. It hurt, but it was a pain she welcomed. It was proof that something inside her was waking up. Sarathia stood by her side, holding her hand. For the first time in years, she felt hope spark inside her chest. But outside the palace walls, whispers were already spreading. Word had reached the Valoran Medical Authority that Lady Sarathia had invited human doctors to perform unapproved treatments. To the officials, it was a direct insult to their science and traditions. They will ruin her, one elder declared in the council chambers. If she succeeds, it suggests our medicine is weak. If she fails, her family's honor will crumble. Either way, she risks shaming us all. And so pressure mounted. Officials sent warnings to Sarathia, demanding she halt the experiments. Some of her business partners even threatened to withdraw support, fearful of being linked with scandal. Yet Sarathia remained firm. She had sacrificed too much to bow to fear now. When Hale learned of these threats, he merely shrugged. On Earth, we were told many times that our methods would not work. But every time someone said impossible, we tried harder. That is what being human means. Leora listened to his words and smiled faintly. I think I am learning what it means to be human too, she whispered. Days passed, and each session brought small but remarkable progress. The tingling in Leora's legs grew stronger. Muscles that had lain dormant began to twitch. At first it was only a toe, then the faint lift of an ankle. Each tiny movement was celebrated by the human team as a great victory. One evening, while Hale adjusted the monitor, Sarathia entered quietly. She saw Leora concentrating with all her strength, sweat forming on her forehead. Slowly, her right foot shifted an inch. I did it. Leora gasped, joy flooding her face. Sarathia's breath caught in her throat. She placed a trembling hand on her daughter's shoulder. Yes, my star. You did. In that moment, Sarathia no longer cared about wealth, honor, or the galaxy's opinions. All she cared about was that her daughter was alive with hope again. But hope always came with resistance. One night, Valoran officials arrived uninvited at the palace gates. Dressed in shining robes, they demanded entry. Sarathia met them in the grand hall, her expression cold. "You dare bring human tricks into our sacred city?" one official hissed. "You disgrace Velaran medicine. End this experiment, or we will bring the matter before the High Council." Sarathia's voice was steady, though her heart thundered. "If your medicine had succeeded, I would not need theirs. Do not speak of disgrace to me while my daughter still sits in a chair because of your failures." The officials left in anger, but their threats lingered like shadows. The risk grew larger each day. Sarathia knew that if the council turned against her, she could lose everything: her wealth, her status, even her home. But when she looked at Leora, she knew the choice was already made. Through it all, Dr. Hale continued his work with patience. He encouraged Leora not only with medicine but with words. Back on Earth, he told her one afternoon, we had a saying: fall 7 times, stand up 8. It means that no matter how often life knocks you down, you rise again. It is the only way we survived on our world. Leora repeated the words softly, holding them close like a secret treasure. She began to believe them. The bond between the human doctor and the alien girl grew stronger. He treated her as an equal, not as a patient defined by her weakness. That simple respect gave her more strength than any medicine could. The turning point came 2 weeks later. During a late-night session, Leora gripped the armrests of her chair tightly. The nanocytes had reached deeper pathways now, and her muscles responded with greater force. "Try again," Hale said gently. Leora focused, sweat dripping down her face. Her leg trembled, then lifted off the ground. A full movement, clear and undeniable. She cried out in triumph, laughter mixing with tears. "I felt it. I moved it." Sarathia, watching unseen from the doorway, felt her knees weaken. She pressed her hand to her lips, overwhelmed. In silence, tears rolled down her cheeks. She had not wept in years, but now the flood could not be stopped. The impossible was no longer impossible. That night, Sarathia stood alone in her garden, looking at the stars. She thought of her daughter's smile, of the whispers of the officials, of the risks yet to come. For so long she had been told that humans were reckless, primitive, even dangerous. And perhaps all of it was true. But tonight she understood something greater. Humans were dangerous not because of war or weapons, but because they refused to accept defeat. They carried hope like a weapon, and they gave it freely to those who had lost their own. In her heart, Sarathia whispered again, "No matter the cost, I will see this through. My daughter will rise, and some." The grand hall of Lady Sarathia's palace shone brighter than ever before. Crystal chandeliers glittered from the ceiling. Long silver banners draped down the walls, and the sound of music echoed softly across the gathering. Tonight was not just a banquet. It was a symbol of Valora Prime's strength. Alien officials, merchants, ambassadors, and human delegates all filled the tables. They spoke politely, traded smiles, and discussed business and politics. But for Sarathia, this night was more than trade. It was the stage for something greater. Behind the curtains of her private chamber, Leora sat in her chair, her heart pounding. For weeks she had trained in secret. Dr. Hale and his team had guided her through painful exercises, building her strength one step at a time. She had fallen, stumbled, and cried through the nights, but she had always risen again, carrying the human words in her heart. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Now the moment had arrived. "Are you ready?" Dr. Hale asked, kneeling beside her. His voice was steady, but his eyes shone with quiet pride. Leora swallowed hard. "Yes, tonight. I will walk." In the banquet hall, Sarathia moved gracefully between her guests. She wore her finest robes, her face calm as stone. No one could see the storm inside her. She had not told the other nobles what would happen. Even her closest allies remained unaware. To them, Leora was still the girl in the chair, a symbol of tragedy. The officials whispered as always. "Why is she here tonight? Why show her daughter in front of humans? Perhaps to gain pity," another murmured. Sarathia ignored them. She sat at the head of the long table, waiting. Servants moved about, carrying trays of food and drink. The air was filled with the clatter of plates and the murmur of voices. Then, as planned, the doors opened and Leora was brought in. Gasps rippled across the hall. All eyes turned to the young woman, sitting in her chair as she always had. For many, it was a reminder of weakness. A cruel whisper ran through the crowd. Even wealth cannot buy healing. Sarathia clenched her fists under the table, her patience tested. But then she caught Dr. Hale's eyes across the room. He gave her a small, firm nod. The signal. Leora gripped the arms of her chair tightly. Her legs trembled as she pressed her feet to the floor. For a moment, doubt screamed in her mind. What if I fall? What if they laugh? But she remembered Hale's words. It does not matter if they laugh. What matters is that you rise. She closed her eyes, drew a deep breath, and pushed herself upward. The hall grew silent. The music stopped. Plates froze midair. Slowly, shakily, Leora stood. Her knees wavered, but her body held. Step by step, she began to move forward. One step, then another. Her hands trembled. Her legs shook, but she kept walking. The sound of her foot striking the polished floor echoed like thunder in the silence. At the head of the table, Sarathia's eyes widened. She had seen her daughter train, but to see her rise here in front of the entire galaxy, it was beyond anything she imagined. The plate in her hand slipped and shattered onto the marble floor. She did not care. Tears rushed down her cheeks as she rose to her feet. Leora, she whispered, her voice breaking. The guests stared in shock. Some covered their mouths in disbelief. Others whispered, their voices trembling. Impossible. She was paralyzed. No Velaran healer could restore her. She walks. Because of the humans? Sarathia rushed to her daughter's side, ignoring the gasps. She held Leora's trembling hand and steadied her. Together, mother and daughter stood tall before the crowd. No one spoke. The silence was heavier than stone. At last, Sarathia lifted her head high, her voice strong. For years, I was told nothing could be done. I was told my daughter would never walk again. I was told that hope was foolish. Yet tonight, you all see the truth. My daughter walks. Not because of your prideful science, not because of your cold traditions, but because of the gift of humanity. Murmurs spread quickly, some in awe, others in anger. The officials shifted uncomfortably. To them, this was humiliation. But to many others in the hall, it was inspiration. Dr. Hale stepped forward, his expression humble. I did not come here for glory, he said quietly. I only came to help. Humanity is not perfect. But on Earth, we learned that even when the world breaks us, we rise. And tonight, Leora rose with us. The hall erupted, not in laughter or mockery, but in thunderous applause. Some nobles clapped hesitantly, others more firmly. Even those who despised humans could not deny what they had seen. A miracle born not from weapons or power, but from compassion and determination. That night, the story spread like wildfire across Valora Prime. From palace to marketplace, from noble halls to worker quarters, everyone spoke of the girl who walked again, and the humans who made it possible. Days later, Sarathia stood with her daughter and Dr. Hale before the press. Cameras flashed as she announced her decision. I will fund a new institute, she declared, a place where Velaran and human medicine will work together. No child, no family will suffer in silence again. If it means standing against tradition, so be it. My daughter's steps proved what humanity offers this galaxy. Not fear, but hope. Her words shook the council, but they could not silence her. Too many had seen the truth with their own eyes. The tide had turned. In the quiet that followed, Sarathia often sat with her daughter in the garden. Leora now walked slowly, leaning on a cane, but each step grew stronger. She laughed again, her spirit alive. For Sarathia, that laughter was more precious than all her wealth. One evening, as they watched the stars, Sarathia turned to Dr. Hale. The galaxy once feared humans for their strength, but now I see clearly. What makes you dangerous is not strength, it is hope. You give it freely and it changes everything. Hale only smiled. Sometimes hope is the greatest medicine of all. And so, in the halls of Valora Prime, where once whispers of shame had lingered, a new story was told, a story of a human doctor, an alien daughter, and a mother who dropped her plate in shock as she saw her child walk again. A story that would